Hello, my good people of YouTube. I am here once again with a presentation for you. This time, I simulated Big Brother 14 500 times. And I am here to share my findings with you. So, I would reckon that 95% of people who have clicked on this video, seeing the title, would understand that there are spoilers ahead for Big Brother 14. But I have been on the internet long enough to know I need to explicitly say that. And so, spoilers ahead. If you haven't watched Big Brother 14 though, I would really recommend it. It's a very good season of Big Brother. Especially if you don't know anything about it, I'd recommend just going in blind. I wish I could have done that. But I reckon that's a very small percentage of the population watching this video, considering it has the season's name in the title. And I don't see why you would have clicked on this if you did not know anything about Big Brother 14. But here we are.
Spoilers.
Why did I choose Big Brother 14? It did air like, what, 13 years ago? So it might be a questionable choice for you, the viewer, as to why I picked this particular season. And it is because I watched it recently. That's really just the main reason. My partner, he finally agreed to watch Big Brother with me for the first time in 8 years. And so we watched BB27 together. And he really liked Keanu. And he kept saying how he really liked the idea of like a comp beast cockroach that the other contestants can't get rid of. And so that made me want to show him Big Brother 14 because it has my favorite comp beast cockroach.
Which is Ian, not Frank. I hate Frank.
But I also thought maybe he'd like Frank if that's like the type of person that he likes. And also, I mean, Big Brother 14 just has some of the best moments of the show, in my opinion. I mean, Dan's funeral, the Final Four eviction, like, it's just all phenomenal. And it has our queen, Brittany Hayes. You get to see a glimpse of Janelle. I just thought it was a great season to show him if he was enjoying Big Brother 27. And so I just recently watched it. So I feel as though I am refreshed in my knowledge enough of Big Brother 14 in order to do this experiment, so to speak.
It's good. I recommend it.
And next you might be asking, why 500 times? Because the previous 2 videos that I've done in this, I've only done it 100 times. And a good watcher, there is good reason for that, and let me explain. Rest assured, it's not because I wanted more data in order to be more thorough in my assessment. It's because I can't stop myself. So this is kind of what happened. So I normally, when I do this, I like to use the Brant Steele's interactive template. And I like it because it's very customizable. You can kind of you can set like the size of your cast and your jury size. It's got like the different profiles for comps and for like the other attributes like strategy and stuff like that, and I really like that part. And basically like the way that the format goes is that it's just a standard format of Big Brother. Like there's no twist, there's no weird stuff going on. And it randomizes the comps, and so it's not going to be the same comp formation each time. And so that's usually the way that I like to do these simulations, is I start with the interactive version and I just set my stats and I go. But Big Brother 14 is very different from other seasons of Big Brother. And I was thinking to myself, how could I also emulate Big Brother 14 while doing this? And I thought to myself, okay, well, in the interactive template, you can set alliances. And so I thought to myself that I should set the coaches group as like an initial alliance each time. Because basically they'll form alliances just like throughout the simulation. A lot of times when you first start it, it'll already have like preset alliances that it just kind of came up with. And sometimes those are based off of like relationships and like their stats already. Like if someone's really strategic, they'll probably start off with a lot of alliances to start off, if that makes sense. But I was like, what if I like preset the alliances to make sure that the coaches groups were already like together?
All right.
And so then that made me want to do this version as well. And then like looking at the website, they also have template versions of the different seasons. Now this only goes up to, I think, season 21. It might go up to season 22. I'm not entirely sure, but I can't blame Brant Steele. This is a lot of work to set up, and I can't blame him for stopping after 21, to be quite honest. So
We don't hate on Brant Steele in this household.
So it's okay, it's okay. But they had a version of Big Brother 14. And so I kind of wanted to do 100 versions of just the Big Brother 14 template, you know? The one thing I don't like about it is that you can't set like the strategic or the like social ability, all of those stats. You can only set the comp stats. So that's a little disappointing. But I wanted to do it with the stats that I had already set up.
You know?
And then when I was on it, I realized that Brant Steele had already had stats set up for the contestants that matched their actual abilities. Like they weren't just random. And they were set up for both their comp ability as well as their relationships. And I found that very interesting because I was like, oh, this might help alleviate some of the biases that I might hold towards certain contestants. And so I also wanted to do the Big Brother 14 template with those stats in mind that were already set up by Brant Steele. And then I thought to myself, well, if we wanted to fully capture this, I should also put the stats that Brant Steele had already had set up, and I should put it in the interactive template. That way, I can also add the coaches' alliances as well as their strategic and social abilities that I had already determined with my first two versions. And so I did each of those versions 100 times, and that gave me a total of 500 times of simulating Big Brother 14. You will see in my assessment, I go overboard with this.
Because I basically analyzed each version, and then I analyzed merged versions of all of these versions. So I was like, well, how did all of the games that I set up do? Versus how did the ones that the Brant Steele assessments did? And then how did the interactive templates go? Versus the Big Brother 14 template go?
So this took me a lot longer than what I was anticipating. But I think it gives us some interesting data. So I do want to explain, so that I don't have to keep repeating myself, which stats go with which version. So listen up, this is important.
I don't want you to be confused.
So you'll be hearing me say like, this is version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4, version 5. So I want you to know what those all entail. So here, we're using the stat layout for our winner, Ian. I figured he'd be a good person to just use in this example set, you know? Basically, version 1, it is the interactive template. It just uses my stats, and so that's what these two right here, the colorful stats are. It's my comp abilities and my other attributes that I set. It doesn't have any relationship set. The comps are random, and the format is standard. That is version 1 of this thought experiment. Up next we have version 2, which is very similar to version 1, but there's a little tweak, and that's the alliances. So we're using my stats, it's the interactive template, but I added the coaches as an alliance for each of the players. And so, like for Ian, he's preset in an alliance with Boogie, Frank, and Jen.
Makes sense? Makes sense? All right.
Those are the ones that are like pretty similar to each other. You'll see that in my like little stats, but I wanted to see if it made a difference, to be honest.
Anyway.
So Next, we have the Big Brother 14 template. So this is version 3. So we are using the BB14 template. Unfortunately, we can only use my comp stats here because they don't have the other attributes to set in this template. Again, there are no relationships, and basically the comps and the format mirror BB14. I will say this,
It allows me to like pick if America allows the coaches to go into the game, and I just always pick yes. Because I think there was like a 0% chance the coaches would ever not go into the game. And they still let like the coaches vote and all that. And again, in all of the versions I did, they never said no. I mean, there was like individuals that said no, but they just needed one person to agree, and there was always one person that agreed. So in my opinion, I think when it comes to BB14, there's like a 0% chance that the coaches would not enter the game. That's how I'm interpreting this. I did think about adding additional versions that included what if the coaches didn't play, but this is already taking a long time, and I needed to stop myself somewhere.
Anyway,
another important part about the BB14 template was that I kind of had to randomize the coaches and like their players each time. Otherwise, I'd have to like manually reset all of their profiles each time, and I didn't want to do that. Plus, I thought it was interesting to see like how it would play out if like each person had a different coach each time. So I thought that was interesting. Anyway, let's keep going. So for version 4, we're using the Big Brother 14 template again. We're using Brant Steele's preset stats. So these are the comp stats that Brant Steele had set, and these are the relationships that they had set. So I just used that, I didn't tweak them at all. I just used what they already had set up so I can alleviate my own biases.
because I'm a scientist, you know?
So again, comps and format mirror the actual BB14, and the coaches groups change each time because I didn't want to. This already takes me a long time. And then finally, we have version 5, where we are using the interactive template again, but I am using Brant Steele's comp stats and I am using their relationships that they had preset in the previous version. Because they don't have the other attributes preset, I just used my own ones again because this is my thing, you know? And I also reset up the alliances that I did on version 2 where they're in their coaches group. So now this is running through with Brant Steele's stats, and we've got like the standard format and the random comps.
Okay?
Those are the 5 different versions. Remember them.
I don't want to repeat myself.
I might end up repeating myself anyway. I used to work for middle schoolers.
You have to repeat yourself a lot.
Anything else? I have the contestants ranked based off of a rich tapestry, in the words of Corey Wertenberger. Basically, it's kind of a mix of like their average placement as well as their win equity. Just ride with it. I had a method. It's very scientific. Basically, I just took a bunch of averages of a bunch of different things, and then I saw how all of that broke down. So that's how they are ranked. It's very complex. Also, I think it's important to note, I did not watch this season live. I did not start watching Big Brother until season 16. During season 14, I would have been 14 myself, going on 15. And even if I did watch it live, I almost guarantee you that the only thing I would have been focused on was Ian. And I don't think I could have told you much else about the season. I'm almost positive about that, given my 14-year-old self. But anyway, let's move forward with our ranking. Let's see how these contestants did in the 500 simulated versions of Big Brother 14. So in 16th place, we have Willie Hantz, which...
Are we surprised?
I was actually worried that he wouldn't get 16th place, I'm not gonna lie, but it does feel very fitting that he is in 16th place, because I think if you were just to rank the contestants in general, he'd get 16th place. But the fact that it scientifically happened was very riveting, one might say. Let's start with the stat that I gave him, and we'll kind of compare it to some things before we move on. Basically, I was pretty similar to what Brant Steele already said for the comp abilities. The general category is average, the physical category is great, the endurance category is average, and then I set him as average for mental quiz, and Brant Steele set him as decent, which, I don't know. I just don't think we really saw Willie do a mental quiz comp, and so I just didn't really think it was fair to give him decent, but I don't necessarily disagree with it. I think it's fine. As far as the other attributes, because I do find these a little more interesting, I gave him an average strategic ability. I think you could give him decent. I gave him average because he was at least like trying to go against the vets, which is like not the worst idea, but he didn't go about it in a very good way. I did give him untrustworthy for his loyalty level because he was
wishy-washy.
And then I think the clear obvious ones to give him is that I gave him terrible for his social ability, and I gave him extreme rage for temperament. I think if you get ejected from the house, I can't really give you anything besides extreme rage. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Willie Hands.
It's just the way of things. I found his relationships kind of interesting that Brant Steele had already set up. I was expecting it to have a lot more dislike for him, you know? But actually, most people are fairly neutral to him. So he has a non-mutual relationship with his entire team, Brittany, JoJo, and Shane. They all just feel neutral towards him, which again, I was a little confused with. I feel like you could probably give Brittany like a dislike towards Willie at the very least, but I don't know.
I'm not Brant Steele.
And I will say, I think that's the reason why I don't like to set relationships, is because, you know, their relationships with these people change so much throughout the season. And I think you'll see with the ones that Brant Steele has set up is that it's kind of like they pick one moment of the season, but I would say that it changes throughout, and it really just depends on what day you're looking at them and your relationship changes. And so I don't really like to set relationships unless they know each other prior to the season happening, because then I think it's worth giving them something for a relationship.
But anyway,
I just want to show you what Brant Steele had set up. I don't necessarily agree with all of them, if I'm being honest. He has neutral relationships with all of Dan's team. Him and Janelle both have a mild dislike for each other. He has a one-sided mild dislike with Joe. I don't know why Joe just feels neutral towards him. I feel like you could also give Joe a mild dislike. And then he also has a strong dislike for Boogie and Frank.
go off.
So, how did Willie do? As we can see, this is the breakdown of all 500 games that he played. I'd say very clearly went out in the first 4 places typically. Those are kind of his highest chances of going out. He does have a spike during 9th place and 5th place, but otherwise it's pretty much towards his back half where he typically goes home. So as we know, his actual placement was 14th, where he was ejected for headbutting Joe while Ian looked on with a towel. His average placement in all of these 500 games was 9.508. His mode was 16th place, which he got 10.2% of the time. I am not doing a median for these people because that would have taken me so much time, and I guarantee they all would have just been 8, 9, or 10.
I'm sorry.
In all 500 games, he only won 20 times. He was in the final 2 39 times. And so when we combine that together, he would win in the final 2 51.28% of the time. He made jury 49% of the time. And if he did make jury, he made the final 2 15.92% of the time. Here's his percentage breakdown. It's a pretty steady decline, but he very clearly doesn't have a lot of win equity. And it's mostly because he just doesn't get to the end very much. He has a hard time doing that, which I feel like is reflected in real life. When we look at the different versions together, I wanted to see which versions each player kind of performed better in. So So we're gonna do a little bit of a breakdown of their best and worst placements as far as these attributes. So he performed the best in his overall placement during version 3, where his average placement was 8.65. The worst average placement he had was during version 5, where he got 11.31, which is really bad, I'll say that. I think it's because the interactive templates, you can include their social ability as well as their temperament, and I think that's what really kills him. Because it's like,
He's not very stable, that's for sure.
and then you add on like the people who just don't like him with the Brandsteel relationships, and I think it just makes it a really difficult time for Willie, I'm not gonna lie. The version that he won the most in was version 3, where he won 8 times. He won the least during version 4, where he didn't win at all. His best win percentage in the final 2 was during version 5, where he won 66.67% of the time if he was in the final 2. I will say, I think that's because he was only in the final 2 3 times and he won twice. So
Go off, King.
his worst win percentage was obviously in version 4, where he didn't win anything. The version where he made jury the most often was version 3, where he made jury 58% of the time. And his lowest chances of making jury was version 5, where he only made jury 32% of the time. And so now I have a graph breakdown of his percentages for each individual version.
You may not see me, I'm sorry.
For versions 1, oh my god, this is so hard. For versions 1, 2, 3, and 4, they all have a fairly similar trajectory. However, version 5 is definitely the outlier. And again, I think that has to do with the fact that the interactive template is going to take in his social ability as well as his temperament a lot more. And it also has those negative relationships that are negatively affecting him. And so naturally, version 5, he did really bad in. I also have it compared for my versions versus Brandsteel's versions. So just our general like stats that we have set up. Clearly he did better in my versions than in the Brandsteel versions. I'm not too surprised because, again, he doesn't have any relationships pre-set up in my versions, and so that's gonna help him already. But I do think these are pretty similar overall, and they kind of have a similar end game in the end. And so now I wanted to also compare the interactive version versus the BB14 version. Again, they're very similar. I will say that for a lot of the newbies, the BB14 version is not very kind to them. And that's because the vets can't get evicted in like the first 4 weeks. So it just gives them a lot more chances to get evicted early on. So the fact that they're even, I think, tells you just how poorly he did during the interactive templates, because for most of the newbies, their interactive template is kind of like leagues above the BB14 template. So I just want to put that out there. Okay, so up next,
I'm gonna have to explain this.
okay, so again, I really went thorough when it came to all of these versions and comparing all of these versions together. And so basically what I had done was I wanted to see what the percentage breakdown was for every single person and compare it to each other.
I'm not sure if this is gonna make sense.
But basically, I looked at their percent chance of getting to the top 15. And so I compared it all together. And then I ranked them based off of their percentages. And so if you had the highest percent chance of getting to the top 15, you were like number 1. If you were the lowest, you were number 16. So I ranked all of them. And then I took all of their rankings and I made little graphs individually. I could see how they were ranked in total and look at that. And part of my reason for doing that is because in my eyes, the closer you are to this line, I call it the safety line.
Okay?
Follow me? Follow me? The more likely you are to either go through. So if you're above the safety line, that means you're fairly safe for those placements, because it means that there are other people who are in more danger below you. So you want to stay above that line to stay safe. And I have this thought, so it's like, to get to the top 15, you want to just make sure that you're not in 16th place, right? Because then you're within the top 15. And then to get to the top 14, you want to make sure that you're at least like 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, or 14th.
Right?
Because if you're below that, you get evicted, because you're the most likely to go home at that point. And so I'm trying to see where they are in the most dangers at what point. I don't know if this makes sense, but it makes sense to me. And I think the graphs are interesting because it really, all I'm trying to show is like where they're in the most danger and where they have the most safety. Okay? Does that make sense? So above the black line, they're safe. Below the black line, they're in danger. Okay? That's all you really need to know.
So anyway,
As we can see in each version, this is how he'd do. He's not very good in version 1. Version 2, he does better at the front half. And then around like the 11th, 10th place, that's where he starts to get the most in danger. During version 3, he's kind of middling the entire time. And it makes sense that in version 3, he didn't do quite as poorly, because version 3 was the BB14 template that used my stats. And basically all I had to set was just his comp abilities. And so there was really no way to indicate that he was an unhinged person in version 3. So I think it makes sense that he was like kind of at the same level the entire time during version 3. During version 4, he really is never not in danger. And same thing with version 5. He's really never not in danger. So I just thought that was interesting. So then if we look at my games versus Brant Steele's games, again, this is all compared with all of the other contestants together, because I can't stop myself when I have an idea. My game, he does slightly better in the first 4 evictions, but he pretty quickly is in danger for the rest of it. And then for Brant Steele's side, he's pretty much in danger the entire time, which again makes sense to me. And now if we're looking at the interactive templates versus the BB14, interactive, he's pretty much in danger the whole time. Again, that's gonna take into account like the social ability as well as the temperament, and his is very bad. And like I mentioned, he actually didn't do quite as poorly in the BB14 ones. And I think it's because it doesn't have that social or temperament thingy, you know? So anyway, that's Willie. That's Willie Hance. Let's move on to the 15th ranked player, which is JoJo. Now, I need to say this about JoJo because, ow, I got cramped. Oh! I need to say this about JoJo because I think it's funny, but when I was watching BB14 with my partner, I asked him after the first week,
Who are your favorite players?
and you know, I was expecting him to say like Ian or Brittany, you know, kind of the obvious ones. And he just automatically goes, I like JoJo. And I just thought, I was like, oh, you're gonna be disappointed. I didn't say that, but I thought it. Josh, you can defend yourself in the comments. So anyway, JoJo got 15th place.
poor JoJo.
Yeah, I mean, as far as her stats go, I gave her decent in general and decent in endurance, but I did give her average for physical and for mental quiz. In the Brant Steele version, they just gave her decent in all of the categories. I didn't think that she was like she clearly didn't win anything, but I don't think she like flopped that much. Like she held her own. So I find it a little cruel to give her decent in everything, but I also can't really argue that much, you know? As far as her other attributes go, I gave her decent for her strategic ability. Didn't really seem like there was too much going on up there. I gave her average for her loyalty level, though in hindsight, I think I could have given her like trustworthy. She was very clearly like sticking by Willy, and that was kind of her downfall in like the actual game. So I think you probably could have given her trustworthy for loyalty level. I just gave her average. Her social skills were average. I couldn't really figure out how to assess that all that well, so I just gave her average. And then I gave her average for her temperament. She could have been feistier, but I don't think she wasn't not feisty, you know? A lot of her relationships were not mutual. She gave herself a strong bond with both Brittany and Shane, and both of them viewed her neutrally, I think. And she doesn't like Boogie or Frank, and I think they also view her neutrally. Weirdly, she has a small bond with Ian that's non-neutral. And maybe that's something from the feeds that I just didn't know about.
I thought that was kind of weird.
And then the only other significant thing is I think Danielle holds a non-mutual dislike for her.
Okay.
This is how her breakdown of all 500 games went. I think the reason why she ranks so low is because I think she is kind of in this category of like GOAT contestants. So you'll see this, and I think you can probably understand why. But there's a few contestants that like very clearly don't win very often when they make it to the end. But they can get pretty far, probably because they're like a GOAT. Like there's no real reason to target them, and so they can get pretty far. I would put JoJo in that category. However, she's almost like the most targeted of the GOATs, if that makes sense. So she's just a lot more likely to just not make it to the end and not win, which is just a horrible combination. It makes her 15th place in this ranking, you know?
I'm sorry, JoJo.
It is what it is. So in the actual season, she got 13th place. Her average placement in these 500 games was 8.834. Her mode was 5th place, which she got 8.4% of the time. She won a total of 13 times in all of these 500 games, which is kind of pitiful, I'm not gonna lie. She made it to the final two 40 times, and this makes her win percentage in the final two 32.5% of the time. She made jury 54% of the time, and if she made jury, she would get to the final two 14.81% of the time. Don't worry, she didn't break, she's okay. All right, so this is her percentage breakdown. All right, and so comparing all the different versions, her best average placement was during version 2, which she got 7.78. Her worst average placement was version 3, where she got 9.77. The most times that she won was in version 3, where she won 4 times. Then the least amount of times that she won was in version 5, where she only won once. I don't know, that just tells me that she pretty much had the same win equity in all the different versions. Like she just wasn't gonna win super often. Her best win percentage was in versions 1 and 3, where she won 40% of the time in the final two. And her worst win percentage was in version 5, where she only won 16.67% of the time. Her highest chance of making jury was in version 2, where she made jury 66% of the time. And her lowest chance of making jury was in version 3, where she got there 43% of the time. So when we look at all of JoJo's versions, say version 1, pretty steady. It's pretty much all in the middle. She doesn't do too badly up until say 12th place, and then it kind of rockets down. Version 2, I think that was her best like GOAT stage, was version 2. Clearly, like once we reach like top 4, that's where it really goes down, but she actually has a pretty high percentage in version 2. Version 3, in general, just kind of looks like her worst. I think she performed the worst in version 5, just based off of what those stats were. But version 3, again, when it came to the Big Brother 14 template, there was just a much higher chance of them going home early. And I think that's what would happen to JoJo a lot of the time during the BB14 template. Version 4 is pretty average, pretty on par with like version 1. And kind of the same thing for version 5. She's not too bad at the beginning, but it dips down, you know. When we compare my version to Brant Steele's version, it's honestly the same line, basically. I guess she kind of does a little bit better in my games when we reach like jury, but otherwise, it's pretty much the same. And then when we look at the interactive versus the BB14 template, she definitely did a bit better in the interactive templates than the BB14, but they basically start and end the same. Like the only difference is just like she does better in the mid game for the interactive versions, but otherwise, they're kind of the same. So when we look at her ranked against all the other players with all these versions, for version 1, she does pretty well until we reach like that late pre-jury stage. Then she starts to be a lot more in danger, and by the time we reach sixth place, she's donezo. For version 2, she actually does a really good job until we reach the top 3. I don't know, again, that was her best GOAT placement, I gotta say. It's probably because she was in an alliance with like Shane and Brittany, who aren't slouches, so that probably helped her a lot, that she was automatically in an alliance with like Shane and Brittany. Version 3 doesn't really have a chance past 14th place, which is kind of the same in the actual version of the show. She's pretty much in the middle all of version 4, which I think makes sense because she's not really a target and she's not really got any win equity. She's just very, very in the middle. And then version 5 is kind of similar to version 4. She just did a little bit worse. Here she is ranked with my versions as well as Brant Steele's versions. She does a little bit better in mine in the sense of like, if she can make jury, she has a little bit more longevity to her, but it still isn't great. As opposed to Brant Steele's version, pretty much once we reach like 13th place, she doesn't really have a chance. And then when we are looking at the interactive versus the BB14 version, the interactive, she can kind of ride the line until say 6th place, but then she doesn't really have a chance. As opposed to the BB14 version where again, once we reach say 13th place, kind of loses momentum. And so that's JoJo. Again, her biggest issue I think is both, she's not a GOAT enough to just make it far each time, but she also doesn't have the win equity enough so that the times where she does make it far, she can win. And so that's why she's ranked 15th. So next, we're gonna go into our 14th ranked player, which is Mike Bookie. And I have to say, Mike Bookie is my least favorite player of all time, possibly. I just find him disgusting. He makes me so angry every time I see him. Anyway, I just want to say the fact that he's in 14th place is like, you don't know this yet, but it's incredibly impressive with how poorly he did that he's in 14th place right now. Because for 200 of the 500 games, he couldn't get evicted until the top 12. Let that sink in. For 200 of the 500 games, he couldn't get anything less than 12th place. So the fact that he's this low is really saying something. So let's get into his stats, shall we? I set him as average for most of his comp abilities besides endurance. And that's because when I was reflecting with how he did with the comps, he actually wasn't that bad. Like, he did a decent job with a lot of them, I'm not gonna lie. Which was surprising. I didn't think he'd do that well. However, I did decide to give him decent for endurance because I think what he has going for him the least is that he doesn't care. if he could choose between trying and not trying, he'd rather not try. Like, if he could win something without trying, then he'll win it. But if he can just not try, then he would. Or if like there's no money incentive, he doesn't care either. And so I feel like that's a direct negative point for endurance comps. Brant Steele just set him as average for everything, which I also think is fair because he wasn't like too bad at comps. Now as far as relationships, I do want to say for my versions, I did set him and Janelle as a mild dislike because they knew each other previously from All Stars and they don't like each other very much. I did just set it to a mild dislike because, you know, there is something to be said about knowing someone when you go into the Big Brother house. Like, you know, would you rather work with the devil you know versus the devil you don't know? And so I didn't want to give them like a super strong dislike going into it, but I think setting just like a mild dislike was appropriate. So that's the only relationship that I had set throughout this entire simulation. But Brant Steele set a lot more relationships, and I think this is truly what did Boogie down when it comes to these 500 times. Because there were quite a lot of people who Boogie sees as neutral, but they dislike. They dislike him. So like JoJo, Willie, Will, and Ian all have a non-neutral dislike towards Boogie. So that's gonna hurt him a lot. I'm not gonna lie. And then beyond that, he also has a dislike between Brittany, Shane, Danielle, and Janelle that's all mutual. All right, so basically the only people who don't feel like a hatred towards him are Cara, Jody, Joe, and Jen, and then he has an unbreakable bond with Frank. So as you can see, that's gonna be a huge deciding factor as to why Boogie did so poorly in these simulations, I'm not gonna lie. But he also didn't do well before those were set, I'm not gonna lie. So anyway, let's look at all 500 games that he played. Wow, would you look at that? Look at all of these, like there's like hardly anything post-jury. There's a lot right here, there's a lot right here. And again, it's to be noted, these first 4 placements he couldn't get for 200 games. Okay? So as we know, his actual placement was 10th place. His average placement in all of these 500 games was 9.908. His mode was 12th place, which he got 13.2% of the time. He won only 14 times in these 500 games, and he was only in the final 22 times. This does make his win percentage 63.63% of the time. So he's got a decent chance of winning if he makes it to the final 2, but he just could not make it to the final 2 all that much. He only made jury 40% of the time, and he would make the final 2 while in jury 11% of the time. Here's his percentage breakdown. As we can see, there is a heavy drop when we reach 12th place. Because that's the first time he could be evicted in the Big Brother 14 templates. When we compare all the different versions with each other, his best average placement was during version 3, which he got 8.03. His worst average placement was in version 5, where he got 12.4. The most times that he won was in version 1, where he won 8 times. And the least amount of times that he won was in version 4 and 5, where he did not win at all. Now, I don't think we can be all that surprised considering that's where all of the negative relationships hit. They did not want to vote for him. I don't blame them. I would not want to vote for Boogie either.
I would have voted for Erica in All Star 7.
His best win percentage was in version 1 and 2, where he won 80% of his games when he was in the final 2. His worst win percentage were, again, versions 4 and 5, where he lost all of them, so it's 0%. The version that he made jury in the most was version 3, where he got jury 62% of the time, and his lowest jury percentage was in version 5, where he only made jury 17% of the time, which is crazy. That's a crazy stat right there. So when we look at all of his versions compared, you can see these two, that's the BB14 version. So when we look at version 1, it's pretty steady. Version 2 is pretty similar, but he does a little bit better in certain spots here. But actually, I think his win percentage was a lot worse than version 2. Version 3, obviously, he couldn't get evicted until the top 12. So yeah, it helps him out a lot. But it does end in him performing fairly similar to his other games though. In version 4, again, he can't get evicted until the top 12, but there's even a more dramatic drop than from version 3 because everyone hates him. And then finally in version 5, where he can get evicted before the top 12 and everyone hates him, it is just
abysmal.
When we look at my games versus Brant Steele, mine are pretty steady. I mean, I don't like it, but they're pretty steady. He still does poorly in my games too. He just doesn't do quite as poorly in my games as Brant Steele's. And then in the Brant Steele version, you can see that the BB14 version kind of influences some of this because it's not as dramatic as a drop. But once we reach 12th place, it's like a boom. That's somewhere you go sledding, Aaron. Is that cheesy? I don't know. And then when we look at the interactive versus the BB14 template, obviously he does better in the 14 template, at least to start off with. Weirdly enough, his win equity isn't quite as good, but he can get a lot farther. With the interactive version, it's a bit more of a steady decline. When we rank everything together, for version 1, it's pretty abysmal. For version 2, it's pretty abysmal. For version 3, it's pretty abysmal once we reach jury, because he can't get evicted. For version 4, it's pretty abysmal once he's able to get evicted. And for version 5, it's pretty much non-existent. When we compare my versions to Brant Steele's, he does pretty well up until the point where he actually gets evicted in the season. And again, I think that's influenced by the fact that, you know, we've got that BB14 version into play, and I don't know. He's like good at strategy, but
he's just an asshole.
And then for Brant,
abysmal.
I also realized I didn't speak out loud what his other attributes were. Do I want to go back and place to edit it, or should I just add it in right now? I'll just say it right now. So his strategic ability, I gave him great. I gave him untrustworthy for loyalty level, decent for social skills, and average for temperament. I think it's hard to say that he's not strategic as much as I dislike him, but I didn't want to give him mastermind because I think that's reserved solely for Dan. Personally, he's clearly a snake, and so I gave him untrustworthy. The only person he's not untrustworthy to is Frank. And I gave him decent social skills because he's an asshole. And I gave him average temperament because he's an asshole, but he's like a manipulative asshole. So he's not gonna like go full force with his anger because he's manipulative, you know?
Anyway.
So now when we look at the interactive versus BB14 template, it's very clear he does not perform very well in the interactive template because he can go home first like each and every time. And then for the BB14, he does well until he can get evicted. So let's move on to 13th place, shall we? Which is Gen City. Now, there are definitely versions where Jen actually did pretty well. And by pretty well, I mean her like average placement was really good. But she's definitely one that's a GOAT. And I think she might be the clearest GOAT. And by that I mean like she wins the least. So let's get into Gen City, shall we? The stats that I set for her, I gave her decent for general, physical, and endurance comps, and I gave her average for mental quiz. I don't know, I just didn't want to be rude. Brand Steel gave her terrible for general, physical, and endurance, and average for mental quiz. Yeah, I guess they were just a little harsher on her than I was. For her other attributes, I gave her a decent strategic ability. I don't think she was terrible. Like, she was like kind of trying at some points, but I don't think you could call her good. I did make her trustworthy. I think she was loyal. I gave her average social skills. It seemed like people liked her. I don't think they liked her enough to like include her in things, but they liked her. And I gave her average temperament because I feel like while watching the show, I think she would think that her temperament was worse than what it actually was. Like, she basically had these moments where she's like, I'm gonna blow up on people. But that's all she did, is just like say that she was gonna blow up on people. She didn't actually really do anything. So I just gave her average. She mostly just had a lot of neutral relationships with a lot of people. I thought it was interesting. She has a non-mutual dislike towards Dan. I actually thought they kind of liked each other by the end, but I don't know.
I'm not Brand Steel.
Again, this is helping out my own biases. She does have a strong bond with Ashley, and she has a non-mutual strong bond with Will. It seems like she liked Will more than Will liked her, based off of what Brand Steel has to say. And then she has a small bond with Frank. So people don't dislike her. They just don't really care about her. Here's the breakdown of all 500 games. Obviously, it's all fairly even until we reach first place. She's pretty much gotten every single placement pretty evenly, besides first. And that's what makes her 13th place in this ranking, really. As we know, she actually placed 5th place in the real season. Her average placement in these 500 games was 8.522. Her mode was 2nd and 10th place, which she got 8.2% of the time. She only won 5 times.
Which is crazy.
I simulated this 500 times. She only won 5 of them.
She really was the original Bowie Jane, I'm not gonna lie.
She was in the final 2 46 times. And so that makes her win percentage in the final 2 10.87% of the time. She made jury 56% of the time, and she would make the final 2 while in jury 16.43% of the time. Here's her percentage breakdown. It's honestly very steady until we reach first place. When we compare the different versions together, her best average placement was during version 5, where she had 7.34. Her worst average placement was during version 3, which she got 10.47. The most times that she won was during the version 2, where she won 3 times. And the least amount of times that she won were during versions 3, 4, and 5, all of which she did not win at all. Her best win percentage in the final 2 was during version 2, where she won 21.43% of the games she was in the final 2 of. And her worst win percentage was, during version 3, 4, and 5, because she lost all of them. But technically you could say that it was even worse in version 5, because she was in the final 2 8 times. So she lost 8 times. The other ones, she only lost 4 and 5 times. Her highest jury percentage was during version 1, where she reached jury 71% of the time, and her lowest jury percentage was version 3, where she only got into jury 34% of the time. Here are all of her versions compared. Version 1 is pretty steady with everything that's going on, along with version 2. And version 5, note, these are all of the interactive templates. So she clearly did a lot better during the interactive templates versus the BB14 template. Version 3 and 4 is where she struggled a lot more. And again, I would say this has to do with the fact that the vets couldn't go home for the first 4 placements. And so what kind of ends up happening is just that with these newbies, it's so much more likely for them to go home early that it just kind of hurts them throughout the rest of the simulation. And so I would say Jen probably fell victim to that more than some other people. When we compare my games to Brant Steele's games, they're pretty similar. I'd say she has better win equity with me, but not by much. And then of course, when we compare the interactive versus the BB14 games, the interactive games she did much, much better during. BB14, not so much. When we look at how she ranked with all of the different versions, version 1, she's kind of like a goat. Pretty much until we reach the top 4, she's very safe. And with version 2, she's very safe until we reach the top 3. Just a goat. Kind of like she was in the real version. Version 3, again, it's a BB14 version. Doesn't do very well. I think she was just kind of expendable early on, and it just kind of hurt her chances throughout. BB4 is similar, but she goes a little bit further pre-jury. Not by much, but a little bit. And version 5, she doesn't do quite as well as she did during version 1 and 2, but she honestly makes it to like around the placement that she does in the real life. So very safe until she's expendable, basically. When we look at my versions versus Brant Steele's, honestly, they have a pretty similar trajectory. I like how like they're the same like shape even. I think that's interesting.
In a different world, I would be able to give you more interesting insights with this, I think. But I feel like that might involve calculus, and I haven't done calculus since college. But I feel like there's a way that you could calculate like the area between the safety line and the other lines and figure out their like win equity based off of that.
I don't have those skills though.
Anyway.
And then there's a huge gap between her interactive and BB14 templates. BB14 she just does not perform well in at all. The interactive templates, she can usually get like well into the jury portion, but she still does not have win equity at all. And I would say she doesn't even really have like final 2 equity that much. So in 12th place, we have Mother Jody. Jody is an icon, a legend. She is the moment. And I'm glad she didn't get 16th place. That would have been sad. Jody deserves her flowers. This is the placement she should have gotten, you know?
Justice for Jody.
So when it comes to her stats, because it's a little hard to tell, she wasn't in the house very long. So a lot of this is just guesses. I set her comparability as decent for both general and endurance. I did give her terrible for physical.
I'm sorry, Jody.
I gave her decent for endurance because she's a Peloton queen. And I gave her average for mental quiz. Brant Steele ranked her similarly. They have average for mental quiz and terrible for all the rest.
I'm sorry, Jody. You deserve better.
As far as her other attributes go, again, this is all just guesses. We don't know Jody like that, unfortunately. I gave her an average strategic ability because who am I to say she wouldn't have been a strategic queen? I don't know. I gave her trustworthy for her loyalty level. The vibe that she gives off to me is that she would be trustworthy.
I trust Jody with my life.
I gave her decent social skills, not because I don't think that she's likable. I love Jody. I think we'd be friends. But the fact that she was picked last with the coaches and also the one that was ultimately sent home, I feel like you have to give some credence to it being a lack of social skills, maybe, or at least lacking in like first impressions. So I don't know. I don't think it's fair though. And I gave her always calm for her temperament because she dealt with her elimination with class and dignity. I wouldn't blame her if she went out kicking and screaming, and she didn't. She just said, well, and got up
Queen behavior.
For her relationships, Brant Steele didn't set any of them. They are all neutral, which is fair. None of these people know Jody like that. And so that's what Jody is as far as her stats. Here are how all of her games set up. You know, some might call her a GOAT with how many times she placed in the top 2 and didn't win, but I call her the GOAT. I've been thinking up that line for a long time. So, her actual placement, as we know, was 16th place with Injustice. Her average placement in these 500 games was 8.514. Her mode was 2nd place, which she got 9.6% of the time. Good for you, Jody. She only won 9 times, but it's still more than Gen City. She was in the final 2 57 times. And this makes her win percentage in the final 2 15.79% of the time. She made jury 57% of the time.
Justice for Jody.
And she would make the final 2 while in jury 20% of the time. Here is her percentage breakdown. And here is how she compares to all of the different versions that she played. Her best placement was in version 1, which she got 7.86. Her worst average placement was in version 3, where she got 9.41. The most times that she won was in version 3, where she won 4 times. And the least amount of times that she won was in version 2, where she didn't win at all. Justice for Jody! Her best win percentage was in version 4, where she won 50% of her games. And her worst win percentage was in version 2, where she lost all 9 games. Her highest percent chance of getting into jury was in version 5, where she got into jury 65% of the time, and her lowest jury percentage was in version 3, where she got into jury 46% of the time. When we compare all of her games together, honestly, they're pretty close with each other. For version 1, it's pretty much in the middle. I think version 1, she kind of has the highest chance of being the GOAT, but we love that for her. Version 2 is, again, pretty similar to version 1. Version 3 is probably her worst chance. And honestly, she didn't even get 16th place all that much. What she got a lot was 15th place, which is at least a fair eviction, even if I resent it. Version 4 is fairly similar. And then version 5, actually, she did pretty well for the first half and then kind of loses her win equity once we reach like the top 8. All in all, it's pretty similar though. When we compare my stats versus Brant Steele's stats, yeah, it's pretty similar. They kind of crisscross with each other every once in a while. It kind of ends with, you know, she's a bit more of a GOAT in my games, but my games versus Brant Steele games are pretty similar. And then when we look at the interactive versus BB14, just like a lot of the other newbies, the BB14 games are a bit worse, but they kind of converge together in the end. When we rank her against all of the other players, she actually does pretty stellar in version 1. It's really not until we reach 2nd place where she even is kind of in danger, but she really is the GOAT of version 1. I mean, look at where it ends, but look at where it is for the most part. Still getting that $50,000. Version 2 is pretty similar to version 1, but I'd say less likely to get top 2, more likely to get just like top 4 or 3. Version 3, like I said, she got 15th place a lot. And so that really damaged her with version 3. Version 4, she's kind of able to ride until jury, and that's really where she gets in danger. I think it's because when we get into Brant Steele's version, because she's just neutral with everyone, she's not targeted early on, but like no one really cares about her to bring her further, if that makes sense. And again, version 5, pretty similar, very safe early on, and then kind of reaches a point where I think like the alliances are forced to go after the people that they just don't care about, if that makes sense. So when we look at my versions versus Brant Steele, she kind of rides the line pretty much until 3rd place. So kind of not quite as safe necessarily, but she rides the line. And then with Brant Steele, it's like she's kind of in the same place the whole time. And then when we look at the interactive versus BB14 template, interactive, she obviously does much better. It's pretty safe until mid-jury, one might say. And then in the BB14 template, we can see that this kind of early pre-jury, she's in a lot of danger for. And then she kind of rides the middle for the most part. But it doesn't give her great odds in the end. All right, and so now we are going to look at the 11th place person, which is Joe. Honestly, I'm shocked that he ranked better than Jen. Joe kind of confused me in all of these simulations because I'd say he was either early boot, second place, surprise winner. He didn't win that much, but every time he won, I was surprised. So here are his stats. I gave him decent for general, decent for endurance, and decent for mental quiz, and I gave him average for physical. Listen, he was pretty close to winning that clown shoe veto. I know it's not actually a clown shoe, but you know what I'm talking about when I say clown shoe veto. He almost beat Frank. He didn't win anything, I know, but I'm just saying. I think they were sleeping on Joe a little bit, Brant Steele, because Brant Steele gave him terrible general, terrible physical, terrible endurance, and decent mental quiz. Listen, I'm not gonna say it's entirely incorrect. I'm just saying, I think they're sleeping on him a little bit. As far as his relationships go, honestly, he's pretty neutral with most people. I'd say the most significant things is that he has a non-neutral strong bond with Janelle and small bond with Ashley. I think he just likes them more than they like him. Like, he's very loyal to them. And then he has a non-neutral strong dislike towards Dan. I think that's fair. He didn't like Dan at all. And you'll see, when we get to Dan, you'll see what his relationships are like. I think it's kind of funny. Anyway, his other attributes, I gave him terrible strategic ability. I don't think the man knew at all what he was doing. And the only reason why he got as far as he did was because people knew he didn't know what he was doing. Which is, I guess, a strategy, but I don't think it was intentional. I did give him unbreakable loyalty. See, this is one of the things I have contentious with, like, the relationships, because he pledged his undying loyalty to Shane, and I would say that kept for the majority of the season. So I put him as unbreakable. I gave him decent social skills because I think people just tolerated him. And I also gave him easily angered because in a similar way to Jen, where I think he stated that he was more angry than what he actually was.
Willie did headbutt him.
I'm not saying he deserved it. I'm not saying that at all. But he was a part of that interaction.
Anyway.
Here are all the different games that he played. He is yet another GOAT, one might say. Pretty interesting. He really, 12th place is like a significant outlier too. I don't really know why. So when we look at Joe in all of his 500 games, his actual placement on the season was 6th place. His average placement was 8.702. His mode was 2nd place, which he got 8.8% of the time. He won a total of 9 times, which is still more than Jen. And he was in the final 2 53 times. This would make his win percentage while in the final 2 16.98% of the time. He made jury 57% of the time, and he would make the final 2 while in jury 18.60% of the time. Here's his percentage breakdown. And when we compare all of his different versions together, his best average placement was version 2, where he got 8.5. His worst average placement was version 4, where he got 9.11. The most times that he won was in versions 3 and 5, where he won 3 times. And the least amount of times that he won was in version 1, where he won 0 times. His best win percentage was in version 5, where he won 42.86% of his games.
Not bad, Joe.
And his worst win percentage was obviously in version 1, where he lost all of his games. His highest jury percentage was in version 5, where he got jury 60% of the time. And his lowest jury percentage was in version 2, where he made jury 55% of the time. Honestly, that just tells me that that's a pretty similar number right there. So not a huge range as far as his chance of making jury. Good for you, Joe. Good for you. When we look at all of his games compared, this one's even more similar, I think, than all of the other games that we played. Ow, I have a foot cramp. Ooh. So when we look at all of the different versions, version 1 is very straightforward. Version 2 is very straightforward. He is more of a goat in version 2, that I will say. Version 3, again, very straightforward. Version 4, a little bit more of a dip pre-jury, but otherwise very straightforward. And version 5, he does a little bit better pre-jury, but again, very straightforward. There you go, Joe. There you go. When we compare my versions versus Brant Steele, they are again very similar. He's a bit more of a goat in my versions, but otherwise, not much of a difference. When we compare his interactive template versus BB14 template, just like most of the newbies, there is more of a dip in the BB14, but otherwise, it's very the same. This makes a lot of sense to me. I feel like Joe would play the exact same game every single time. When we rank him against all of the different players, version 1 is pretty safe until we reach the top 9. I would say that's even kind of similar in like the actual version of the show. Like, he was kind of shoo-in to make jury, but there's also parts where he was definitely in danger of going home up until when he went home. Version 2 is a little bit different. He seems to be in a lot more trouble during like the jury portion, but when we reach the end, he kind of reaches goat status, where it's like, well, might as well just keep him around, you know? Version 3, pretty similar to how his actual game in the actual show went down. Starts to get in danger around 8th place, 8th, 7th place. Version 4, same thing. And version 5, same thing, but maybe a little bit earlier is when he starts to get in danger. When we compare my versions versus Brant Steele, they kind of both have a similar pattern here. I would say when it comes to my game, he's pretty safe pre-jury, though there are like points of danger. But once we get into jury, that's kind of where the danger comes in, though this suggests like a boost in goatness, one might say. And then for Brant Steele, again, he pretty much rides the safe line until we reach jury. Then when we're looking at the interactive versus BB14 templates, interactive versions, safe until jury, and pretty much the similar thing with the BB14, though maybe he's a little bit safer for longer. And that's Joe. In 10th place, we have Frank. Frank's gonna have some interesting stats, I'm not gonna lie. And you might question, how did Frank get 10th? And we'll discuss why. So, I mean, I don't like Frank all that much. I never have. In fact, I remember the first time I watched BB14, I was just, I could not understand how he won AFP, because I hated him so much. This rewatch, I understand how he got AFP. I still don't like him, but at least I get it. I sincerely could not wrap my head around the fact that Frank won AFP when I first watched this season, which I think is kind of funny. So the stats that I gave Frank, I gave him a beast for general, a beast for physical. I gave him decent for endurance because he's a bigger guy, and I think especially during BB14, size mattered a lot when it came to the endurance comps, and so I just gave him decent, and then I gave him average for mental quiz. Brant Steele, however, gave him beast for general and physical, average for endurance, and great for mental quiz. I will say, I think in hindsight, I think I probably should have given him great for mental quiz, but I don't like Frank.
Anyway.
For his other attributes, I gave him a decent strategic ability. I mean,
he fell for Dan's funeral.
He's lucky I didn't give him terrible. I gave him unbreakable loyalty because for some reason he still believed Dan until the end. I gave him average social skills because I think to a certain extent people liked him, but I do think that Boogie's assholeness rubbed off on him. And so I would have been put off by that. And then I gave him easily angered for his temperament because he yelled a lot. Honestly, he's lucky I didn't give him extreme rage, but I don't think that's fully fitting for Frank. I think the easily angered, I think that's a solid choice for Frank. For his relationships, he has a neutral dislike for Brittany, Shane, Willie, Danielle, and Ian. I'm a little surprised. No, I get Ian. Again, I think what throws me off with these relationships is like, at what point in the season are we determining this? Because if it's early on in the season, he likes Ian. But yeah, certainly later on, he doesn't like Ian. It's weird to me. He has a non-mutual dislike with JoJo. He has a non-mutual strong dislike for Dan. And then as far as his positive relationships go, he has a strong bond with Ashley, an unbreakable bond with Boogie, and a small bond with Jen. Here's the breakdown of all 500 games that he played. I would say he has a very strong tendency of going home pre-jury. However, decent chance of winning. And that's really what gives him 10th place here, because if he can make the jury, his largest chance is getting first place. But he has a hard time making the jury, and that's his issue. That's his issue. So when we look at all 500 games together, obviously his actual placement on the season was 7th place. His average placement in these 500 games was 9.22. His mode was 13th and 16th place, which he got 9.6% of the time. He won a total of 41 times. I think that's probably the first really good win percentage that we have come across so far. He was in the final two 66 times. This makes his win percentage while in the final two 62.12% of the time. He made jury 46% of the time. And if he was in jury, he would make the final two 28.70% of the time. So I think we can clearly see his strengths and his weaknesses. And I think it's also pretty representative of how he did in the actual season. He was pretty much in danger the entire time until he went home. But as much as I hate Frank, if he got to the end, it's kind of like, what are you gonna do? Not give him the win? I mean, at this point, Here is his percentage breakdown. And when we compare all the different versions, his best average placement was in version 1, which he got 8.22. His worst average placement was in version 5, which he got 11.28. Again, when you got all those people disliking you mutually, it doesn't bode super well for you. The most times that he won were in versions 1 and 2, which he won 10 times. The least amount of times that he won was in version 5, where he won 6 times, which is still more than Jen in her most amount of times. His best win percentage while in the final two was in version 4, where he won 80% of his games. His worst win percentage was in version 2, where he only won 55.56% of games. His highest percent chance of getting into jury was in version 2, which he got into jury 56% of the time. And his lowest jury percent chance was in version 5, where he only made jury 25% of the time. And here are his versions compared together. Honestly, they're all pretty similar until we get to the Brant Steele versions, which again, looking at all of the different dislikes that he has, I think makes a lot of sense. So when we look at version 1 and version 2, honestly, almost identical. Version 3, he does a little bit worse, pre-jury obviously, and win equity wise. But it's still fairly similar to versions 1 and 2. It's really once we get into version 4, it dips down quite a bit. And then version 5, I mean, he had a pretty hard time getting past 12th place. When we look at my versions versus Brant Steele's versions, he clearly did better on my versions. He doesn't have the whole house hating him, much like Boogie. And as far as the interactive versus BB14 versions, they're pretty similar. I'd say there's definitely more of a dip at the beginning for the BB14 versions, but once we move forward, they're pretty much identical. When we compare him to all of the other players, he's fairly safe in version 1 until we reach jury. That's kind of where his danger points start to set in. In version 2, it's a similar story, but I think he's kind of able to ride it until the top 2 a little bit. It's like he has points where he's more in danger and points where he's safer. Almost kind of like the actual season where it's like, you know, he's either on the block or HOH. That's what this is telling me. The spikes, that's when he's HOH, but the loops are when he's not. Version 3 kind of rides it until like 6th place, I want to say. And then he doesn't have much of a chance, but there's still like good points and bad points. Version 4 doesn't have a pretty good chance. Like pretty much once we reach like the late pre-jury, he doesn't have much of a chance. And then version 5, even less of a chance. Though he kind of builds up to like a better win equity towards the end. When we compare my versions to Brant Steele, he obviously rides more of the safety line for mine, but I will say that kind of like late pre-jury, early jury, I think is when he's the most in danger. But if we look at the Brant Steele versions, he's pretty much always in danger. And then when we look at the interactive versus BB14 versions, interactive, actually, he does pretty poorly. He pretty much is in danger once we reach the top 13. And for BB14, kind of a similar thing. He's pretty much in danger once we reach the top 11. I don't really know how that works.
But that's what the math says.
In 9th place, we have Kara, or Kara. I will probably be changing that pronunciation throughout her
thingy.
I think it's Kara. So, Kara is also one that we don't particularly know that much about. Honestly, I view her as like one of the people that I find the most questionable as far as casting goes. Like, I don't know why they cast her. She seems a little boring to me, but whatever. As far as her stats go, I gave her average in everything besides mental quiz. I don't really know why I did that, but I did. Brant Steele did a similar thing, except they also gave her decent for general. All right, go off. As far as her other attributes go, I gave her a decent strategic ability. I didn't give her terrible because I think she at least kind of tried when she got evicted, but she didn't do very well, so.
Decent.
I gave her trustworthy as far as her loyalty level goes. I gave her great for social skills because she seemed likable, but like that was kind of like her problem was like,
She went home because she was one of Dan's people, and she was like the better player between her and Danielle, and so that's what got her sent home.
it's very confusing. And I gave her always calm for temperament because she seemed too timid to fight people. I guess she cried a lot, but I would too if I was like on the block week 1. Most of her relationships are non-mutual. So like she has a small bond with Shane, Dan, and Danielle, but they're all non-mutual. I'm pretty sure all of them feel just neutral towards her. The only one that is neutral is towards Will, where she has a small bond with him.
Good for you, Kara.
Good for you, making friends, kind of. Here's the breakdown of all of the placements that she had. It's actually very even across the board, which I think makes sense because I find her just incredibly average in general. As we know, she got 15th place. Her average placement was 8.552. Her mode was 6th place, which she got 8.2% of the time. She won 22 times, and she was in the final 2 52 times. This makes her percent chance of winning while in the final 2 42.31% of the time. She made jury 56% of the time, and she would make the final 2 while in jury 18.57% of the time. Here is her percentage breakdown. And when we compare all the different versions, her best average placement was in version 2, which she got 8.29. And her worst average placement was version 3, which she got 8.89. So we can see the variance that's between all the different versions with her right off the bat. The most amount of times that she won was in version 1, which she won 8 times. And the least amount of times that she won was in version 3, where she won 1 time. Her best win percentage was in version 1, which was 57.14% of the time, and her worst win percentage was in version 3, where she won 16.67% of the time. Her highest jury percentage was version 5, which she got 58% of the time, and her lowest jury percentage was in versions 1 and 3, which was 54% of the time. Again, we can see the variance there. If you can't tell, all of her versions were fairly similar together. Here's version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4, and version 5. I don't even know what to commentate here. I guess for version 5, she did better pre-jury, but had like the least amount of win equity. But I mean, overall, they're all very similar. When we compare my versions versus Brant Steele's, it's again very similar. When we compare the interactive versions versus the BB14 versions, it's again very similar, with perhaps the only variance being, like I said with all newbies, she did slightly worse at the beginning of BB14 because they couldn't get out 4 different players. Anyway, here she is ranked amongst all of the other players. In version 1, she's fairly safe until the top 10. In version 2, pretty safe until like the top 10 again, but it kind of rides the middle up until like 5th place. In version 3, she's pretty safe until jury. In version 4, she's pretty safe until the top 7. And in version 5, she's again pretty safe until like jury. In my versions versus Brant Steele, she's pretty safe until 10th place, and Brant Steele kind of rides it until 8th place. Again, very normal. And here are her interactive versus BB14. In interactive, she's actually pretty safe until 4th place. And in the BB14 version, she's pretty safe until like 7th place. My phone's also about to die. I might need to eat lunch, and then I will be back.
All right, time has passed for me, but not for you. So let's continue, shall we? Now we have finally reached the halfway point, and we have Ashley as our 8th ranked person. I do love Ashley. I think she's so funny. I don't think anyone has ever had more random diary rooms than her, but she's an icon.
Legend, really.
So the stats that I gave Ashley, I gave her decent for general and terrible for physical endurance and mental quiz. Now, I feel as though I'm usually pretty generous for house guests and their comp ability, but one, it's Ashley. 2, it is known that she had a bad back during the season, and so I do think that that hindered her physical abilities. So
I'm sorry, Ashley.
But you know, Brant Steele did not disagree with me. They gave her terrible for general, terrible for physical, decent for endurance, and terrible for mental quiz. So I don't feel that mean. As far as her other attributes go, I gave her terrible for strategic. I don't think she knew what she was doing. At least that's the vibe I got from the edited show. I feel as though her main strategic point of view was like flirting with Frank, and even that didn't really get her anywhere. I gave her trustworthy loyalty level, I gave her average social skills, and I set her as always calm. She was just too happy to be anything other, you know? As far as her relationships go that Brant Steele set for her, it looks as though she really just has a strong bond with Frank, a strong bond with Jen, a non-mutual strong bond with Will. I guess Will just had like a small bond with her. I don't know. She has a small bond with Boogie, which I don't think Boogie shares. And they said it as non-mutual, but when I looked back, Ian had the same relationship as her. So I guess it is mutual. But her and Ian have a small bond together. I feel like maybe they meant to set Ian's as a strong bond, but I don't know about that. Here's the breakdown of all 500 games that Ashley has played. Honestly, she's a strong jury contender. but she doesn't win very often. As we know, her actual placement was 9th place. She was the first jury member. Her average placement in these 500 games was 8.386. Her mode was 4th place, which she got 8.8% of the time. She won a total of 14 times in these 500 games. She was in the final 2 49 times, making her win percentage in the final 2 28.57% of the time. She made jury 60% of the time, and the percent chance of her making the final 2 while in jury was 16.33% of the time. Here is her percentage breakdown, and when we compare the different versions together, her best average placement was in version 5, which she got 6.37. Her worst average placement was in version 4, which she got 10.12. The most times that she won was in version 1, where she won 6 times. The least times that she won was in version 4, where she won 0 times. Her best win percentage was in version 1, where she won 46.15% of the time. And of course, her worst chance of winning in the final 2 was in version 4, where she didn't win at all. Her highest jury percentage was in version 5, where she got to jury 78% of the time, and her lowest jury percentage was in version 4, where she only made jury 47% of the time. Here are all of her games compared together. Version 1 is pretty average. She did slightly worse in version 2. I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's because Will and Joe aren't exactly the best alliance members. And Janelle was a pretty big target in the first couple of versions, which we'll get to that when we get to Janelle. That probably didn't help her very much in version 2 either. Version 3, she did even a little bit worse. I think this comes from the newbies in the BB14 version being a little harder for them. Version 4, she did significantly worse. And she did very well in version 5. I don't really know how to interpret that, but there's your data. When we compare the versions of my stats versus Brant Steele's stats, it's honestly very equitable. I would say like the Brant Steele version does slightly better, but only in certain placements, and really they converge most of the time. When we look at the interactive versions versus the BB14 versions, of course, like a lot of the newbies, she did better in the interactive version and she did worse in the BB14 version. When we compare her ranked against all the other house guests, she does fairly well in version 1, where she really starts to only get into danger once we reach the top 5. Version 2, she does slightly worse, but eventually goes into the danger area around the top 8. Version 3, she does even slightly worse than the other 2, where she starts to get in danger around the top 10. She did really bad in version 4, so I'm sorry, Ashley. Honestly, I think it kind of has to do with Frank. I think maybe that's why. Because, I mean, once we get into the Brant Steele, land, Frank was a pariah, for sure. Ashley's not, but she is aligned with Frank. That probably didn't help her. And then she does fairly well in version 5, where she really isn't in danger until around the top 4, per se. When we compare my version versus Brant Steele, honestly, they have pretty similar trajectories, where it's like early jury where she starts to get in trouble, which is also fitting for her actual placement in the actual season. And then when we compare the interactive versus the BB14, as what is similar with a lot of the newbies, her interactive games are a lot better than her BB14 versions. In 7th place, we have Will. He wasn't originally supposed to rank this high, I don't think. But we'll see why he ended up in this place. So for his stats, I wasn't quite sure what to do with it, because I feel as though we didn't know Will that well. I don't know how to describe that. He seems very out of place with the season. I don't know if that makes sense. But I just gave him average in all of the competition abilities. I feel like when we were watching this season, they hyped up him more than what he actually presented. So it did make me think maybe he was performing decently in the competitions and we just didn't see it. I don't know. But Brant Steele had a much less generous interpretations of his comp ability, and they ranked him decent on all abilities. I don't know enough about him to really be certain in that assessment, to be quite honest. As far as his other attributes, I gave him average strategic ability. I feel like through the edit you could tell that he was trying to do something, but I don't know if it was very effective. I gave him average loyalty level, honestly mostly because it seemed as if he turned on Janelle very quickly. But maybe he was loyal to other people, I don't know. I don't know him. His social skills I gave great. It seemed like people liked him. He seems like a likable guy all around. I would be friends with Will. And I gave him usually calm for his temperament, because he's a little sassy, but I don't think he'd get in a fight with anyone. The relationships that Brant Steele gave him, honestly, I think helped him a bit, because it seemed as if more people liked him than he liked other people. He has a small bond with Ashley, a small bond with Kara. Jen had a small bond with him, but he doesn't have any relationship with Jen. He non-mutually dislikes Dan, Janelle, Boogie, and Frank. And so I think all of them just don't feel anything towards him. So honestly, that helps him a lot. You want to have more enemies from your own point of view than for people to think that you are their enemy. Take this word of wisdom with you.
Anyway.
Here's the breakdown of all of his placements. As you can see, it's pretty spread across the board, but I think what boosted Will to the spot as opposed to kind of the other average players, like I'd consider that being like Kara and Ashley, is that if we look at his first and second place placements, it's not like the second place crazily outdoes his first place. I think that's what helps Will. His actual placement was 11th place. His average placement in these 500 games was 8.72. His mode was 6th place, which he got 9.2% of the time. He won a total of 17 times, and he was in the final two 37 times. His percent chance of winning while in the final two is 45.95% of the time. He made jury 56% of the time, and his percent chance of making the final two while in jury was 13.21% of the time. Here's his percentage breakdown. Honestly, I think what hurts Will the most is just that he doesn't get to the final two very often, but I don't think his win equity is horrible once he gets to the final two. But he's also like pretty solidly in jury most of the time. That's my assessment of Will. When we compare all the different versions together, his best average placement was version 5, which he got 7.42. His worst average placement was version 4, which he got 9.38. The most times that he won was in version 5, where he won 6 times. The least times that he won was in version 4, where he won 2 times. His best win percentage in the final two was version 5, where he had a win percent of 85.71%. And his worst win percentage was version 3 with 30%. His highest jury percentage was in version 5, where he got to jury 72% of the time, and his lowest jury percentage is in version 1, where he made jury 48% of the time. Here are all of his versions compared. Honestly, his version 1 was probably one of his worst performances, especially in terms of like kind of his win equity. Version 2 he did a lot better in, and again, I don't really know why. Version 3 is again one of his lower performances, especially in the beginning, but that's pretty par for the course for all of the BB14 templates. Version 4, he did fairly similar as he did to version 3, and then he did much better in version 5. I think it helps that, you know, his relationships, he had a lot of people who liked him. That helps you, you know. When we compare my stats versus Brant Steele, he did do better in the Brant Steele versions, which I think makes a lot of sense considering the relationships. When we compare the interactive versions versus the BB14 versions, again, just like all the newbies, he did slightly better in the interactive, but really, once we reach 8th place, he performs similar between the two different versions. When we look at him compared to the other contestants, he doesn't perform super well in version 1. He starts to get in danger around 13th place, which is pretty par for the course of where he was at for the actual season, to be quite honest. Version 2, it's a little more all over the place. It seems as if he has like a point of danger in the top 12, but then is able to recover until like the top 6. In version 3, we can see that he gets in danger around 13th, 12th place. Again, pretty par for the course of the actual season. Similar in version 4, though, he's kind of able to ride the safety line until the top 6, but it seems as if it's very like touch and go, just depending on the week or the circumstance or who is there, you know? There's a lot of different possibilities. And in version 5, he is fairly safe until the top 7. When we look at my version versus Brant Steele, he's pretty low on the list most of the time. Once we reach the top 13, he doesn't really stand a chance. However, when we look at Brant Steele, it seems as if he can get into jury like most of the time, which is not what happened in the real season. When we look at the interactive versus BB14 templates, he starts off in the interactive template a lot better. He's able to kind of be safe until the top 9, whereas in the BB14 version, it looks like he starts to get in danger around 13th place. He can kind of pick back up starting in early jury, but it's still not looking very good for him. And now we have Janelle as our top 6. Truthfully, I did not think this was gonna happen. For the first couple versions that I did this, it was not looking very good for Janelle. But she pulled it out in the end.
That's my Janelle.
She's a legend for a reason. We love Janelle. And the fact that Boogie beats her in BB14 is forever a stain on the Big Brother legacy. And so, the fact that she beats him in my 500 versions redeems everything about this season.
Thank you, Janelle.
So anyway, let's look to see at what her stats are. Also, if you've been paying attention, you now know who the top 5 are. And surprise, surprise, it's the Quack Pack. Who would have guessed?
Anyway.
The stats that I gave Janelle, I tried to be conscious that I was talking about BB14 Janelle. I feel as though the Brant Steele version was thinking still about young Janelle, which is fine. But I think mine were a little more realistic. So I gave her great for general and physical, and then I gave her average for endurance and mental quiz. Now, we didn't really get to see her do mental quiz stuff, so perhaps I'm just trying to alleviate my biases a little too much. But I think this is fair to get to Janelle, considering, I mean, she won some coaches comps, but it's not like she won any of the like regular comps. Not that she had much of a chance to either, but nonetheless, that's what I gave her. The Brant Steele version, though, gave her Beast for general, Beast for endurance, Beast for mental quiz, and average for physical.
All right.
Personally, I gave her great for physical because she won that weird, like 80s comp where like you had to move your hips and like that weird tongue thing. She killed that one. Would you call that physical or endurance? I don't know.
Anyway.
For her other attributes, I gave her great strategic ability. Now, I do think strategic ability is like one of Janelle's weakest points, but if we are looking at her compared to all of BB14, I think we can give her great. I think that's fine. Like all of the coaches were walking circles around all of these movies. Like, I'm sorry. I think I can give her great in this circumstance. Normally, I think Janelle is a very trustworthy player. Like, I think if you look at literally any other season that she's on. However, for BB14, I gave her untrustworthy. And that's because I think she was primarily playing for her team, which means like she wasn't playing for herself. I think when she plays for herself, she attaches to the people that she likes and she's very loyal to them. But I think she was trying to be a little more cutthroat for her team's sake. And I noticed that she was a lot more flip-floppy when rewatching the season. So like she started off being very close with Brittany, and then as soon as Willie blew up, she jumped ship, and then she attached on to Boogie, and then was pretty willing to like throw Boogie under the bus. She felt a lot more cutthroat than she had in previous seasons. And so I did give her untrustworthy for the purposes of this season. I think as like a general attribute, I wouldn't give her that. But for BB14, I did. I gave her great social skills because, I don't know, I'd be hypnotized by Janelle if I saw her. And I think she knows how to like get in with people. It's just like her reputation kind of precedes her, you know? And I gave her always calm temperament because, I mean, the woman doesn't cry. She's low-key kind of like a sociopath. But it's iconic.
Anyway,
Of course, in my version, I did give her a mild dislike with Boogie, as I stated during Boogie's little thing. But for Brant Steele, these were the relationships that they had set up. She has a small bond with Brittany, a non-mutual small bond with Dan, a small bond with Joe, and then she has a mutual dislike with Willie and Boogie, and a mild dislike with Danielle. So she's got some enemies, but she does have some allies as well. But she does have some enemies. When we look at all 500 games that Janelle played, she does have decent win equity. Now, does she get into the jury portion that much? Not exactly. I'd say she's kind of in a similar boat to Frank, where if she can get into jury, she has a good chance of going far. However, it's getting into jury that's kind of her issue. I do think that because of the 200 games where she can't go home for the first 4 rounds, it helps her overall average placement more than Frank, and I also think she wins more than Frank in the end. So that's kind of how Janelle is able to place this highly, but she's certainly in danger of going home pre-jury a lot, I will say that. As we know, her actual placement on the show was 12th place. Her average placement in these 500 games was 8.65. Her mode was 8th place, which she got 10.4% of the time. She won 44 games, and she was in the final 2 67 times. Her percent chance of winning while in the final 2 is 65.67% of the time. She made jury 56% of the time, and her percent chance of making the final 2 while in jury is 23.93% of the time. Here's her percentage breakdown. When we compare all the different versions together, her best average placement was in version 3, which she got 6.67. Her worst average placement was in version 1, which she got 9.95. The most times she won was in version 3, where she won 12 times. The least times she won was in version 1, where she won 5 times. Her best win percentage was in version 3, where she won 80% of the games that she was in the final 2 for. And her worst win percentage was in version 1, where she only won 55.56% of games that she was in. Her highest chance of making the jury was in version 3, where she got in the jury 74% of the time. And her lowest chance of making jury was in both version 2 and 5, where she only made jury 44% of the time. When we compare the different versions, as you can see, it's version 3 and version 4 that really help her out. Those are the BB14 versions. And this is why Boogie being so low on the list is so impressive, because both of those versions helped her, Brittany, and Dan so much in these comparisons, which I think is fair because they were the vets, and I think that does give you an inherent advantage. And so I liked that this was within the 500 games because I think it helps show the realism of their advantage for this whole twist that they were in. But I just want to say that's what makes Boogie's 14th ranking just so impressively bad. But anyway, yeah, so version 3 and version 4, she does significantly better in, if she can make it past like the first 4 evictions. Version 1, version 2, and version 5, she does pretty much the same in, which we can also see when we compare my versions versus Brant Steele's versions. Really, they're very similar. I guess Brant Steele, she does a little bit better at the beginning part of the game, but as you can see, like once we reach Jury, they're almost identical. It's the interactive versus the BB14 games that are the kicker here. She does significantly better in the BB14 games, and I think that makes a lot of sense. When we compare her to the other contestants, yeah, this is where I said I did not think that she'd be able to rank this highly, because she did awful in version 1. She was very clearly the worst one, and I was like, I'm gonna have to admit that Boogie's better than Janelle in my whole findings. Luckily I didn't. Science was on my side. But I really thought I would have to do that. Similarly, she also did pretty bad in version 2, but she had like slightly better win equity. Version 3 is really where she thrives. She really wasn't in danger until like the top 3. And it was pretty similar to version 4. She did slightly worse, but she still did pretty well. And version 5 was kind of like similar to versions 1 and 2, but I think Boogie and Frank had so many enemies that it helped her survive a little bit longer, you know? Now, when we are comparing my versions versus Brant Steele's version, it's a similar shape. I find that really interesting. I don't know what that means, but I find it interesting. Basically, you know, for my versions, a difficult time staying safe early on, but she does kind of gain some momentum up until Jury, and then that's where she's in trouble. For the Brant Steele versions, honestly, she's just safe until Jury, and then she kind of hits a wall. Obviously, when we look at the interactive versus BB14 versions, she's pretty much dead in the water for most of the interactive versions. But for BB14, she can stay safe until like the top 3, so good for you, Janelle. Sorry that you get 3rd place again. In 5th place, we have Danielle, and this is our first Quack Pack member. Honestly, I shouldn't be surprised that the Quack Pack did as well as they did, because I do think they were really the only true players of Big Brother 14. But here we are. Danielle is first of the Quack Pack members, or I guess you could say she's last. Here she is. I also think that's fair. I think she is by far the worst player of the Quack Pack. But weirdly enough, I'm still shocked she didn't somehow win. I feel like the game was made for her.
I don't know.
But here we have Danielle as our 5th placed player. All right, so for her stats, I gave her great for general, average for physical, great for endurance, and great for mental quiz. And that's also what Brant Steele gave her. 2 minds think alike. For her other attributes, I gave her a decent strategic ability. She just followed whatever Dan told her. She wasn't like destroying her chances. I gave her unbreakable loyalty because, I mean, to be quite frank, she still voted for Dan to win in the end.
Crazy.
I gave her average social skills. I suppose maybe it's great. I feel like the house guests liked her, but I also, of all the things I've heard about the feeds, I've heard that she was just like kind of insane. She didn't come across as insane on the show, but I've always heard that she was insane. So I gave her average, and similarly, I gave her average for temperament. Mostly because she cried so much, but that was because of Dan. I don't know. I don't know if her other attributes are all that accurate, but it's what I gave her. The relationships that Brant Steele had set, hers is kind of confusing because she has a lot of non-mutual stuff because she either dislikes people for no reason or she just, I think she likes Brittany and Shane more than they like her, which makes sense. She dislikes JoJo, which JoJo doesn't dislike her. Also makes sense. She has a strong bond for Dan, and we'll get to Dan and why I find his relationship so funny. But Dan does not share that with her. Personally, I'd switch that. I'd give Dan the unbreakable and Shane the Strong bond. She has a strong dislike for Janelle, and she has a mild dislike for both Boogie and Frank. Here are all 500 games that Danielle played, and here is where we'll start to see the true winners of the season. Because as you can see here, her first places have already skyrocketed above all her other placements. And yet, here she is, ranked 5th. So, just wait. Yeah, I mean, she just has good win equity, frankly. Weirdly enough, her win equity is just not quite as good as the others. I think also she had more of a chance of going home early than the others. That's what I noticed a lot, was like the other 4 pretty much made jury like every single time. Danielle would be the one that would kind of straggle along. Sometimes it seemed like they'd almost replace her with Cara, but like Cara was like a non-entity. That's my assessment. In the actual season, she got 3rd place. Her average placement in these 500 games was 8.206. Her mode was 1st place, which she got 11.2% of the time. She won 56 games, and she was in the final 2 93 times. Her percent chance of winning while in the final 2 is 60.22% of the time. Her percent chance of making jury was 58%. Her percent chance of making the final 2 while in jury is 32.05 or 7. Is 32.07. Here's her percent breakdown, and here are her stats when comparing all the different versions. Her best average placement was in version 5, which she got 7.06. Her worst average placement was in version 4, which she got 9.43. The most times she won was in version 5, where she won 14 times. The version that she won the least was in version 4, where she won 7 times. Her best win percentage was in version 3, where she won 75% of the games that she was in the top 2 for. And her worst win percentage was in version 1, where she won 50% of the games she was in. Her highest jury percentage was in version 5, where she made jury 69% of the time, and her lowest jury percentage was in version 4, where she made jury 47% of the time. Here are all of her versions compared. Version 1 and version 5 were clearly her best 2. I think version 5 slightly beats her out because it gives her a little more win equity in the end. Version 2 was okay. It's pretty similar to version 3, though I'd say she did like worse starting out in version 3. And version 4 was probably her worst, just being kind of slightly lower than all the others. But honestly, it's still pretty on par with how she was doing. When we compare my versions versus Brant Steele, as we can see, it's basically one identical line. When we compare her interactive template versus her BB14 template, as with a lot of the newbies, she did better in the interactive template. When we compare her with all of the other players, version 1 was kind of her game, I'm not gonna lie. As you can see, she's really like pretty safe until 1st place. Version 2, she didn't do quite as well. She definitely had a lot more danger at the beginning, but if she could make it to like the top 5, she had pretty decent win equity. Version 3, she kind of just rode the line of being safe the entire time. And version 4, I think she was in the most danger and also had the least amount of win equity. And then version 5, again, kind of just rides the line, but really she's able to make it until like the top 2 most of the time. So that's really what Danielle has going for her, is I think she's in more danger than the other 4 Quack Pack members most of the time. However, if she manages to get to like the top 5, she's like pretty squarely in the top 2. I'm not gonna lie. Now, when we compare my version versus Brant Steele, in my version, rides the line of safety pretty much the whole time and can make it to the top 2 pretty safely. And in Brant Steele, it's pretty similarly, though it seems as if she has the chance of getting into danger a lot more often. And finally, when we look at the interactive versus the BB14 template, the interactive suggests that she's pretty good until the top 2, yet again. And the BB14 suggests that she's in a little more danger, but it does climb up with the line. So it suggests to me that she's probably just in more danger in general, but she's not in as much danger as everyone, if that makes sense. And in fourth place, we have Dan. I know. Now, if I were to, like, personally just think of how BB14 would go if we played it out 500 times, I think Dan makes at least the top 2 every single time. That's my opinion. I think that this man was prepared to do everything in his power to get to the top 2. Everything in his power. And I think most times he'd be successful. So that's my assessment of Dan. I think Dan's the GOAT, like the actual GOAT. But he just didn't do quite as well in these 500 simulations, and who am I to question science, you know? Honestly, I'm just happy that he got this high in the ranking. I was a little worried for him. But I shouldn't have been. I know, it's Dan. It's Dan. Could I have been really that worried? But again, if I were to actually rank him against all of the players, I mean, obviously, Dan is number 1. Like, come on. But I think this very realistically shows how much of a threat Dan is. And if players were actually acting optimally, they shouldn't let Dan get that far. These are the stats that I gave him. I personally gave him average across all of his comp abilities. And here's why. I think he's actually very good at comps. But a huge part of Dan's game is that he tries to throw comps so he can appear weak. So I basically just gave him average as a way to compromise that. Because it's like, yes, I think when he's in danger, he can beast out a competition and win. But I also think, like, he throws so many of them that, like, I think by setting his comp abilities too high, it's giving him too much credit for the simulator. So I just set him as average for everything. Brant Steele gave him great for general endurance and mental quiz, which again, I think is totally fair. I think that is his actual ability. But I wanted to keep in mind the fact that he throws so many comps.
But whatever.
As far as his other attributes, this was a no-brainer to me. Clearly, giving him a mastermind for strategic ability. I think if you can't give Dan a mastermind, I don't know who you would. I did give him backstabber for loyalty level. I mean, this man did not care, especially this season. In this season, he did not care who he screwed over. I gave him social butterfly for his social skills, which perhaps people would disagree with. But here's my reasoning. And it comes down to the fact that a lot of his strategic ability, his ability to mist people, comes from just how loved he is socially. And I think that's hard to see on the edited show, but I believe Brittany spoke on this before about how, like, one of the reasons why she thinks Dan didn't do very well, like, on Traders is because his mist comes from the fact that, like, he just really sits down and gets to know you when he's in that house. And when you're in the house and you have, like, days to spend with people, hours upon hours, he's truly spending that time, like, building relationships and making people just love him. And that's where his mist is able to, like, form, is in this ability to, like, make them feel like he is truly invested in them. And I think that comes down more to social skills than it even does, like, strategic abilities. And so I think giving him social butterfly, like, accredits what his mist is better than stating him as a mastermind, if that makes sense. And then I gave him always calm for his temperament because, I mean, the man, like, he has, like, no emotions in that game. It's kind of crazy. There were times where he was a little more abrasive, but it wasn't even like he was upset with people. He was just kind of like a sociopath in general. I don't know how to describe it. I think this is a very fair way to assess Dan. Now for his relationships, because I think this is funny. Basically, the Brant Steele simulator set everyone to neutral for Dan. It's like Dan had no emotions towards any of these people. Like, even the people that I think like he had a good relationship with, like watching the show, it's just set to neutral. It's like he does not care. He is just, they're all NPCs to him. The only thing that he does have set is he has a mild dislike for Frank, which fair, I guess. But again, it's like he just views them, they're just NPCs in his way to the money. And I think that's funny. All right, so when we look at Dan's 500 games, it's pretty varied across the board, really. He does have pretty good win equity, but it is pretty all over the place. And I think that's because, if I'm being honest, I think in the interactive versions, when you set someone to a mastermind, it makes them a pretty big threat. I think when you also have people in those versions that have like a great strategy, they're able to recognize the threat and they're more likely like to get him out, if that makes sense. And it doesn't really allow him to like maneuver his way out, if that makes sense. I don't know. That's my assessment. But that being said, the first 4 evictions he's pretty safe in, but he kind of goes all over the place after that. So as we know, he infamously got 2nd place on Big Brother 14. His average placement is 8.12. His mode was 7th place, which he got 9.2% of the time. He won 35 times, and he was in the final 2 61 times. This makes his win percentage, while in the final 2, 57.38% of the time. He made jury 60% of the time, and he would make the final 2 while in jury 20.33% of the time. Here is his percentage breakdown, and here he is compared to all of his different versions. His best average placement was in version 4, where he got 6.66. His worst average placement was in version 5, where he got 9.17. The version where he won the most was in version 5, where he won 10 times. The version that he won the least was in version 3, where he won 2 times. His best win percentage was in version 1, where he won 100% of the games that he was in the top 2 for, which I found very ironic. His worst win percentage was in version 3, where he only won 14.29. Now that's more accurate. His highest jury percentage was in version 4, where he got jury 73% of the time, and his lowest jury percentage was in version 2 and 5, where he made jury 50% of the time. Just like all the coaches, when we look at his versions compared, he obviously does really well in versions 3 and 4 because he can't get evicted for the first 4 evictions. Version 1 and 2 are fairly similar, with version 3 and 4 also being pretty similar. Version 5 is interesting because this is where we have like the relationships really put into play, I think. And so he went out early a lot more often in version 5, but he does like make up for it once he gets into jury, if that makes sense. I don't know, a lot of people didn't like him, but it's another one of the reasons why I don't really like the Brant Steele relationships, because here's like one of the reasons is theoretically let's say they changed up the order where like the coaches could pick people and Dan picked Frank to be on his team. Like, do I think Frank and Dan would form such a rivalry if that was the case? I mean, probably not. There's also a good chance that they still don't like each other. But I would think if they're forced to work with each other, they'd probably form some kind of a relationship and therefore they wouldn't hate each other. I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, little things can change up relationships. 'Tis true in real life as well.
Anyway,
When we compare my version and Brant Steele's version, honestly, they're pretty similar. I'd say he starts off stronger in my versions, but he usually ends stronger in the Brant Steele version. When we compare the interactive versus BB14 versions, obviously he starts off better in the BB14 versions. I did notice that it seems as though his win equity doesn't do as well in the BB14 template, and I wonder if they take into account like the coaches when they're in the top 2. I kind of doubt that they do, but it would be interesting to know. When we compare him to all the other contestants, we can see that in version 1, he kind of gets into danger right when jury hits. And in version 2, he gets into danger a lot earlier than that. In version 3, he's able to stay the course until about top 5. Honestly, it's kind of like when it comes down to the Quack Pack. I feel like he was kind of always like the first one of the Quack Pack to go, if like they were able to kind of stick together. Which obviously they didn't always, because they didn't like form the Quack Pack in every version. But I like to think that they did. Version 4, he also did pretty well and was pretty safe until like the top 4 or 3. And in version 5, he pretty much got into danger right at the beginning. But as you can see, he like kind of follows the line, just like slightly underneath it. When we compare my versions to Brant Steele, he's very safe until jury starts for my version. And then in Brant Steele's version, he's safe until like the top 5, it seems like. And then as far as the interactive versus the BB14 templates, he's pretty much in danger right from the beginning for the interactive version. It's like right when like top 13. But for BB14, he doesn't get into danger until like top 4. And now we are at our top 3. And Shane is ranked 3rd. Truthfully, I understand why Shane was so bitter when Dan cut him. This really was his game to lose. For Shane's comp ability, I set him as great for general, a beast for physical, great for endurance, and decent for mental quiz. Brant Steele basically did the same thing, but set him as average for endurance. I decided to give him the great because he held his own on the spinning discs pretty well, so I don't know. But I think average is fine too. For his other attributes, I gave him an average strategic ability. I don't know. I think by just being an athletic white boy just kind of helps you. I don't think he did much more than that. I gave him trustworthy for his loyalty level. I gave him great social skills, and I set him as always calm. He was just very, milquetoast. But better than being horrible. For his relationships, he has a strong bond with Brittany, a small bond with JoJo, a small bond with Dan, a strong bond with Danielle, a small bond with Ian, and a mild dislike with Boogie and Frank. Otherwise, it's pretty neutral, or people like him more than he likes them. Here's the breakdown of all 500 games that he played. He won a lot more than he didn't, or I guess that's not true, because technically there's all these other places. He just won a lot, okay? As we know, his actual placement in the season was 4th place. His average placement in these 500 games was 7.96. His mode was 1st place, which he got 11.6% of the time. He won 58 games, and he was in the final 2 88 times. This makes his win percentage 65.91% of the time, and he made jury 60% of the time. His percent chance of making the final 2 while in jury is 29.33% of the time. Here is his percentage breakdown. When we compare his stats with the other versions, his best average placement was in version 5, which he got 6.01. His worst average placement was in version 3, which he got 9.44. The most times that he won was in version 5, where he won 25 times. And the least amount of times that he won was in version 3, where he only won 2. His best win percentage was in version 5, where he won 80.65% of the time. And his worst win percentage was in version 3, where he only won 25% of the time. His highest jury percentage was in version 5, where he was in jury 75% of the time. And his lowest jury percentage was in version 3, where he made jury 45% of the time. Here are all of his versions compared. Version 1 is pretty average, and it's pretty similar to version 2. Version 3, he did significantly worse than everyone. I don't know, I think I gave him pretty good comp stats, but I don't know. I think it was just more likely to go home early, just like, you know, all the other newbies. But he didn't do quite as poorly in version 4. Maybe that's because the relationships helped boost him, but I don't know. And he did significantly well in version 5. Again, I think it's the relationships, but good for him. He killed version 5. When we compare my version of his stats versus Brant Steele's, he very clearly did better in the Brant Steele versions, though they're not like significantly different. And when we compare the interactive version versus the BB14 version, it's honestly closer than what a lot of the newbies are. When we compare him to everyone else, version 1, he's kind of rides the safety line pretty much the whole time. I think it kind of just depends on who he's with and the luck that he has with any given amount of time. But it's pretty decent. In version 2, he's in a bit more danger. I'd say once we reach like the top 8, that's where he kind of hits a significant amount of danger. Version 3, he's pretty much in danger once we hit top 12. In version 4, he's able to stay safe until, say, the top 3. And in version 5, he was kind of the clear winner, so that's where he is. When we compare my versions versus Brant Steele, in Brant Steele, he's like pretty much safe until the top 3. My version is a bit more dubious, one might say. I don't really know why. But he's in significant danger up until jury, and then he's only in slight danger. And when we compare the interactive versus BB14 versions, honestly, he does pretty well in both.
I'd say he slays the interactive versions.
And in second place, we have the People's Princess, Brittany Haynes. I love Brittany Haynes. She's definitely one of my favorites of all time. And at this point, you know who number 1 is, if you've been keeping track. And fitting, isn't it? So anyway, Brittany ranked number 2, which I was very happy to see. I love Brittany. And I think Brittany's 14 game is so underrated because honestly, she was so primed to win up until Dan's funeral. And it's like, I feel like you can't even get mad when something like Dan's funeral takes you out. Like, oh, you needed to hold your own funeral to get me out? That's crazy. Ugh. I love Brittany Haynes. So for her comp abilities, I think she downplays them more than what she actually was able to do. I mean, nowadays, I don't know if she'd have this comp stats, but I don't think she was a slouch. I gave her average for general, physical, and mental quiz, and I gave her great for endurance. I mean, she almost won the wall. And I don't know if you'd consider like the slip and slide an endurance comp or a physical comp, but she won the safety in that. And I think if she had gone for the HOH, she easily could have won that, in my opinion. Brant Steele gave her similar stats, but only gave her average for endurance, which, fine, but she almost won the wall.
Anyway.
Her relationships are pretty positive, I'd say. She has a strong bond with Shane, and she has a neutral bond with JoJo and Willie, but they both have like a small bond to her. So that helps her out. She has a small bond with Danielle, she has a small bond with Janelle, and she has an unbreakable bond to Ian, but Ian only has like a strong bond to her. I don't know why. But I love Brittany and Ian. The only people who dislike her are Boogie and Frank, which, frankly, they have a lot more fish to fry than Brittany, so, alright. Here are all 500 games of Brittany. As you can see, she's like the queen of top 5 onward. Good for Brittany. As we know, her actual placement was 8th place because she got sniped out by Dan's funeral. Her average placement was 6.938. Her mode was first place, which she got 11% of the time. She won 55 games. She was in the final 2 a total of 104 times. Her percent chance of winning while in the final 2 was 52.88%. Her percent chance of making the jury was 70% of the time. And her percent chance of making the final 2 while in jury, it was 29.71% of the time. I'll say this, between her and Ian, she had a better average placement, but Ian had a much better win percentage. Like Ian's win equity was better than Brittany. Brittany's isn't terrible, but it's very like hit or miss. And so I think that's truly what like bumped Ian over Brittany in these last two rankings because I think it was very clear it was going to be between Brittany and Ian. Brittany just didn't have the win equity of Ian, but her average placement I think was slightly better than his. Here is her percentage breakdown. When comparing all the different versions, her best average placement was version 4, where her average placement was, wait for this, 3.93. Excuse me?
Anyway,
Her worst average placement was in version 1, which was 9.00. The most times that she won was in version 4, which was 26 times. The least amount of times that she won was in version 5, where she only won 5 times. Her best win percentage in the final two was in version 1 and 2, where she won 63.63% of the time, and her worst win percentage was in version 5, where she only won 23.81% of the time. Her highest jury percentage was in version 4, where she made jury 92% of the time. And her lowest jury percentage was in version 1, where she only made jury 48% of the time. Here's the graph of all her different versions. Version 1 and version 2 are very clearly her worst performances. You can see that she does worse at the start of version 1 and does a little bit better at the end of version 1 than version 2, but they're both fairly similar. Now, when we get into the other stuff, it's significantly different. So version 3, obviously, as we're getting into the BB14 version, she starts off very well. She ends up kind of ending similar to version 1 and 2, but I mean, version 4, it was her game, version 4. That was her game. Version 5, she kind of goes back down to earth, but she still ends pretty well with version 5. When we are looking at my stats versus Brant Steele's stats, obviously she got the edge with the Brant Steele stats. It helps when people like you. And again, pretty obviously, she did much better in the BB14 template than the interactive template. It's hard not to have an advantage when you can't go home in the first 4 evictions. When we compare her to all the other contestants, version 1 is very clearly her worst version. She starts to get into danger after 14th place. I'll say, in version 1, all 4 coaches did awful. All of them. It was kind of incredible. It almost made me think that there might have been something in the code to make them more of a threat to others. I didn't really know what was going on. I was kind of confused by it. Version 2, she does a little bit better than version 1, where she can pretty much be safe until 8th place, and then it goes down pretty quickly. Version 3, she obviously does much better, where she's able to stay safe until the top 3. And again, version 4 was Brittany's game. She owned version 4. Version 5, she was able to stay safe until about 3rd place. When comparing my versions to Brant Steele's versions, she's pretty safe until the top 4 in my versions. And in Brant Steele, yeah, she was very clearly in the top 2. It was just kind of a matter if she won or not. And when we are comparing the interactive versus the BB14 versions, again, she was very clearly in the top 2 for the BB14 versions. And she was pretty safe until jury as far as the interactive version. And now we have our first place, Ian Terry. Is Ian the best player of BB14? I don't think so. Is Ian the correct winner of BB14? Absolutely. I don't know really what to say. If it's the cast breakdown, if it's the comp outcomes, or his just personal abilities compared with all of the other people, I don't know. But Ian was very clearly meant to win BB14. I know Dan should have won in the final 2. I'm in that camp. But I'm just saying, this was clearly Ian's game. I don't know how else to explain it.
science is on my side.
So for his comps, I gave him great for general, average for physical, beast for endurance, and beast for mental quiz. Brant Steele was pretty similar, but instead of giving him beast for endurance, they only gave him great, which I contest. The last endurance comp he threw because Dan is Dan. But the other two, the spinning discs and the wall, I mean, he almost won the wall, and he won the spinning discs, like, pretty easily. I think he's a beast at endurance. I stand by that. For his other attributes, I did give him a great strategic ability, but if you gave him average, I wouldn't argue with you. Because he should not have been trusting Dan towards the end of that game. But I gotta give him credit as far as the other newbies, because he was really the only one like actively trying to make like positive game moves for himself, it felt like without any influence of his coach. So I gave him great to like give him props for that. Like he's really the only one that made positive game moves without needing his coach's help in order to make a positive game move, you know? I gave him unbreakable loyalty level because I don't know why he was trusting Dan so much in the end. And he was very like, he wanted the Quack Pack to the end. It was incredible to me that he was like trying to help Shane win in that veto in like the top 5. Because if you're Ian, I would think you'd want Shane to go home at that point. Like, I don't want Shane to be there. But he wanted the Quack Pack there. He's an unbreakable.
He's an unbreakable bitch, you know?
I gave him decent social skills. I think he does endear himself to people as he goes on in the season. But I feel like to ignore that first week that he was in the house and how Boogie giving him safety truly saved his life in that house, I feel like that's hard to ignore. So I did give him decent social skills. But again, I think he's able to endear himself pretty easily to house guests. So if you wanted to disagree with that, I don't entirely disagree. And then I gave him easily angered for his temperament because, I mean, the fight against Frank was so iconic. I didn't know he had that dog in him, and he did. For his relationships, he has a strong bond with Brittany, a small bond with Dan, a small bond with Danielle, though I think both Dan and Danielle just have a neutral bond with him. Did I say small bond with Shane? I don't know. JoJo also has a small bond with him, and he just feels neutral towards her, which I don't really know why. He has a small bond with Ashley, and a mild dislike towards Boogie, though Boogie feels neutral towards him, and a strong dislike for Frank. So really only Frank doesn't like him. Here's his placement breakdown for all 500 games. I told you. This is insane. This is an insane breakdown. As we know, in the actual season, he actually got first place. His average placement in these 500 games was 7.266. His mode was first, which he got 17.6% of the time. He won a total of 88 times, and he was in the final 2 126 times. His percent chance of winning in the final 2 is 69.84%. His percent chance of making jury is 65. His percent chance of making the final 2 while in jury is 38.77. Here's his percent breakdown, which looks a lot like the others. They're all just slightly higher. When we compare his different versions with each other, his best average placement was in version 4, which he got 5.95. His worst average placement was in version 2, which he got 8.21. The most times that he won was in version 3, where he won 29 times. The least amount of times that he won was in version 2, where he still won 11 times. His best win percentage was in version 3, where he'd win 85.29% of the time, and his worst win percentage was in version 1, where he won 63.16% of the time. His highest jury percentage was in version 4, where he got into jury 79% of the time, and his lowest jury percentage was in version 1, where he got into jury 58% of the time. Here are all of his versions compared. Version 1 and 2, I'd say he did the kind of worst in, with version 3 kind of having a little dip in that, first 4 evictions that we've been discussing throughout this video. But it does end pretty triumphantly in the version 3. In version 4, he's just solidly there pretty much the entire time. And same with version 5. I think with all of these, it's hard to see just how good it is without comparing it to everyone else, because he just did a solid job in every version, really. When we compare my stats with Brant Steele's is slightly better, probably due to the relationships. And when we compare the interactive versus BB14, it does start off where the interactive versions help him out slightly more, but he seems to have a much better win equity when it comes to the BB14 template. When we compare him to everyone else, as we can see from just this graph right here, it's just so clear he just does well in every single iteration that we have here. Like, there's hardly anything below the black line. This is kind of a crazy stat right here. So version 1, he's pretty much safe until we hit early jury, but even then, he's able to kind of ride the line pretty well until first place. Version 2, kind of a similar story, but he's even safer for longer, I'd say. In version 3, we see that he does kind of have a danger point here in 14th place, but otherwise, he's pretty stellar. Season 4 is again a stellar performance. In season 5, might see some danger, like top 4, but still pretty stellar performance. When we compare my version versus Brant Steele, he's pretty much the winner in my version at least. And I'd say it's pretty similar in the Brant Steele version as well. When we look at the interactive version versus BB14, I think his is one of the closest together. Like, there's not quite as big of a difference. So in the interactive version, he's pretty much safe until top 3, and in BB14, I'd say that looks like he's kind of the set winner for BB14. So now let's kind of look at all of this together. And I know that this video is already long enough, and I apologize to future Hannah for having to edit this, to be quite frank.
What I do for love.
So I kind of just wanted to give you a visual of how everyone kind of compares with each other. So we're gonna go through some lists, and I'm gonna decide what I feel is valid or not.
Based off how I feel.
So for the average placements ranked, Brittany is clearly number 1, followed by Ian, then Shane, Dan, Danielle. All makes sense. Boogie's at the bottom with Willie, Frank, JoJo, and Will following pretty shortly after. I will say their overall average placements are fairly similar. Brittany's kind of like the biggest outlier with her 6.938. And I'd say Boogie, Willie, and Frank are like the biggest low point outliers. They're all above 9. I then wanted to look at what their highest average placement was and like compare it with each other. Again, Brittany's by far the biggest outlier, where she was able to rank a 3.93 in version 4, and so that's the highest average placement, followed by Ian, then Shane, Ashley, and then Dan. Willie has the highest average placement at 8.65, followed by Joe, Kara, Frank, and Boogie. When comparing their lowest average placement, Ian has the lowest at 8.21 for his version 2, followed by Kara, then Brittany, Joe, and Dan. And Boogie has the lowest placement at 12.4, followed by Willie, Frank, Jen, and Ashley. When looking at the amount of times that they won in all 500 games, Ian tops the list at 88 times, followed by Shane with 58, then Danielle at 56, Brittany at 55, Janelle at 44, Frank at 41, Dan at 35, Kara at 22, Willie at 20, Will at 17, Boogie at 14, Ashley at 14, JoJo at 13, Joe at 9, Jody at 9, and finally Jen at 5. As far as individual versions, Ian has the most times with winning 29 times in version 3, followed by Brittany, then Shane, Danielle, and Janelle. And Jen won the least amount of times with 3 times, followed by Joe, then Jody, JoJo, and Ashley. For the least amount of times that they won in individual version, Ian won the most with 11, followed by Danielle, Frank, Janelle, and Brittany. And we have a pretty sizable bottom of people who won 0 times in an individual version, with Jody, Jen, Joe, Ashley, Willie, and Boogie. When ranking them based off of their win percentage in the final 2, Ian tops off the list at 69.84% of the time, followed by Shane, Janelle, Boogie, and then Frank. And at the bottom of the list, we have Jen with 10.87, followed by Jody, Joe, Ashley, and JoJo. Based off of individual versions, Dan has the highest win percentage at 100% of the time, which again is funny if we think about how it ended up in the actual version. Followed by Will, Ian, Shane, Janelle. And Jen has the highest percent win with 21.43, followed by JoJo, Joe, Ashley, and Jody. When ranked by their lowest percent chance of winning in an individual version, Ian has the highest one with 63.16, followed by Janelle, Frank, Danielle, and Will. And we have all our 0 placed ones. So Jody, Jen, Joe, Ashley, Willie, and Boogie are all at 0%. When ranked by their percent chance of making jury, Brittany tops off the list with 70%, followed by Ian, Shane, Dan, and Ashley. And at the bottom, we have Boogie with 40%, followed by Frank, Willie, JoJo, and Will. With the individual highest percent chance of making jury, we have Brittany with making the jury 92% of times in version 4, followed by Ian, Ashley, Shane, and Janelle. And in last place, we have Frank, whose highest percent chance of making jury was 56 times in version 2, and that is followed by Willie, Kara, Joe, and Boogie. Ian has the lowest percent chance of making jury, which is 58% of the time, and he got that in version 1, followed by Joe, Kara, Dan, and Brittany. And Boogie has the lowest percent chance of making jury at 17% of the time in version 5, followed by Frank, Willie, Jen, and JoJo. This one I don't have individual versions for, so you're welcome. But the chance of making the final 2 while in jury, we have Ian topping off the list with 38.77% of the time, followed by Danielle, then Brittany, then Shane, then Frank. At the bottom of our list, we have Boogie at 11%, followed by Will, JoJo, Willie, and Ashley. Now I have my classic, their percent chance of making any individual placement. And I'm just gonna go with the top and bottom for each of these lists. If you care to know, you can pause the screen and look for yourself. Anyway, Brittany has the highest percent chance of making the top 15 at 98%, and Willie has the lowest at 90%. At the top 14, Brittany has the highest percent chance at 94%, and Willie still has the lowest at 81%. For the top 13, Brittany still has the highest percent chance of making it at 89%, and Willie still has the lowest percent chance at making it at 74%. For the top 12, Brittany still has the highest percent chance of making it at 85%, and Willie still has the lowest to make it at 67%. For the top 11, Brittany has the highest percent chance of making it at 80%, and Frank now has the lowest percent chance of making it at 59%. For the top 10, Brittany has the highest percent chance of making it at 76%, and Boogie now has the lowest percent chance of making the top 10 at 49%. For the top 9, Brittany has the highest percent chance of making it at 70%, and Boogie has the lowest percent chance of making the top 9 at 40%. For the top 8, yet again, Brittany has the highest percent chance of making it at 64% of the time, and Boogie has the lowest percent chance of making it at 33% of the time. At the top 7, Brittany has the highest percent chance of making it at 58% of the time, and Boogie has the lowest percent chance of making it at 28% of the time. Also, RIP, because that's when Brittany went home in real life.
She should have made it.
Anyway, For the top 6, Brittany has the highest percent chance of making it at 50% of the time, and Boogie has the lowest percent chance of making it at 23% of the time. For the top 5, Brittany has the highest percent chance at 46% of the time, and Boogie has the lowest percent chance at making it at 18% of the time. For the top 4, Ian now takes over the top spot with 39% of the time, and Boogie is still at the bottom at 13% of the time. For the top 3, Ian is still at the highest at 33% of the time, and Boogie is at the lowest at 9% of the time. For the top 2, Ian is at the highest at 25% of the time. That's a crazy stat, making the top 2 25% of the time. Just let that sink in.
Anyway,
And Boogie has the lowest at 4% of the time. We've kind of already gone over this, but Ian has the highest percent chance of winning at 18, and Jen has the lowest at 1%. So now I also added all of those placements up and ranked them accordingly to that. You can pause to read if you really care. And then I made a graph of all of it. I'm sure you can't see this all that well. There's a lot of stuff going on, but I'll try to show you. This is Jen. It is really hidden behind everyone else's. I promise you can kind of see the other ones a little bit better. Then we have Danielle, Ashley, Jody, Shane, Ian. Yeah, Ian's definitely the highest here. Frank, pretty low. Cara, Jojo, Dan, Joe, Brittany, very high average placement. Willie, Will, Boogie, by far the lowest, and Janelle. And then here they are all with their rankings. I'm just gonna show you individually. We're not gonna analyze them too much. We already analyzed them a lot. So we've got Ian, Dan, Danielle, Shane, Jen, this is the safety line, Joe, Frank, Brittany, Ashley, Boogie, Will, Janelle, Jojo, Willie, Cara, and Jody. Now, if there were evictions based off of these average placements, this is what they would be. First, Willie would go home, and then because Willie had already go home, we're gonna go with the next highest. Follow me. So next, Frank goes home, then Jojo, then Joe, then Boogie, then Cara, then Janelle, then Jen, then Will, then Jody, then Ashley, then Dan, then Danielle, then Shane, and our top 2 would be Ian and Brittany. And now, because Ian has a higher win percent chance, I would consider him the winner against Brittany, making this our boot list. And so then I averaged all of those averages out, and that's how I got my ranking. And I think that's the end. So I hope you learned a lot about BB14. This is what I've spent the majority of my time on for the last month or so, I'd say. And this is like at least 3 hours worth of footage. So I'm gonna have fun editing that, I'm sure. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Bye.